Let's go to Washington now with the time at 5:17 on Checkpoint. See you in court, Donald Trump tweeted in capital letters, but his problem was and is that his executive order, now commonly described as his Muslim ban, had just been in court, where in a unanimous decision 3 judges had declined to block an earlier court ruling suspending it. In short, the president put the ban on, a lower court suspended it, the White House appealed and lost. The suspension remains. The ban is not in effect. This is how President Trump responded shortly after the decision came through.
It's a political decision, and we're going to see them in court, and I look forward to doing it.
So you believe the judges made a political decision?
We have a situation where the security of our country is at stake, and it's a very, very serious situation. So we look forward, as I just said, to seeing them in court.
So
do you think this has undercut the early days of your presidency? This is such a core issue.
This is just a decision that came down, but we're going to win the case.
And have you conferred with your new Attorney General on this tonight? Is he a
No,
part
I
of it
haven't.
now?
We just heard the decision.
How did you find out about the decision, Mr. President?
Just saw it. We just saw it just like you did.
Via the news, et cetera, the media.
But it's a decision that we'll win, in my opinion, very easily.
Let's go to our correspondent Simon Marks in Washington. Simon, wonderful to have you with us as always. He says they will win very easily at the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court is making determinations on the same rule of law, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the problem is that he keeps losing very easily and is finding it very difficult to win. He said there, as he has said throughout, that this is a national security issue. But the 3-judge panel at the Federal Appeals Court specifically made the point in their judgment that the Trump administration has not proved that this is, in fact, a national security issue, in the sense that they haven't presented evidence of a very clear national security threat posed by the people that they want to shut out of the country, namely refugees from all over the world and citizens from those 7 countries that President Trump's executive order targeted. And it's not just the judges in this case who have been saying that. So have former officials with President George W. Bush's administration, senior figures including George W. Bush's Attorney General and the legal advisor who wrote the memo for George W. Bush, advising him that the use of torture was legal. So those guys aren't shrinking violet liberals, and they've all made the case that President Trump went about this in a way that did not sufficiently demonstrate the national security case for closing the borders. If he's going to find a way of advancing this legally, he's really going to have to demonstrate that he had a reason for doing it.
Yes, and so far he's failed to do so. It was a unanimous decision by the 3 judges and really comprehensive. They simply weren't equivocating. His response looked like a strange mixture of petulance and bravado. Is this a blow for him, or does his constituency still believe in him?
Well, it's definitely a blow for him. I mean, a president of the United States, only in his 3rd full week of the presidency, facing such a legal problem and having expressed such public disdain over the last few days for the judiciary, so much so that his own nominee to fill the vacant seat on the Supreme Court, Judge Neil Gorsuch, has had to say that he feels demoralized and disheartened by what the President of the United States has been saying. However, President Trump knows that he looks at polling data that shows that his voters, not the people who have been protesting on the streets, not the people who have been excoriating him in the great pages of the Washington Post and the New York Times, his core supporters in the American heartland still, in large measure, want him to crack down on immigration and deliver law, order and security. So he can be relatively confident that he's still got their support at this very early stage of his presidency. But what he's got to find a way of doing is not just campaigning and making promises, but governing. And what he's learning is that in this constitutional array, it's not one-man government. There's 3 branches of government: the presidency, the Congress and the courts. He seems to be getting very frustrated by the fact that he can't just sit there, sign pieces of paper and make things happen.
Yes, yes. I think he's confusing himself with a rather old-school monarch, isn't he? The question, I guess, is, so you say his supporters still support him. Obviously, the courts are saying, no, you are wrong. and you cannot do this. And we have heard, of course, that the protesters, who are principally Democrats, don't like him at all. What about everyone else? What do people who are somewhat bewildered by Donald Trump make of all of this?
Well, I think everybody is still trying to figure out exactly how he is going to settle into the mode of governing. And one of the unsettling things that I think we've witnessed over the last 3 weeks is that he is steadily chipping away, or trying to chip away, in a very deliberate fashion at public confidence in some core institutions here. First of all, public confidence in the courts. He continues to express deep frustration that he even has to be fighting all of this legally. He says it's just common sense. He keeps intimating that he should just be allowed to do it. Secondly, as you know, John, he's chipping away at public confidence in the media. He even argued this week that any poll that shows his approval ratings might be flagging, he simply dismisses as fake news. He doesn't believe it. He tells everybody simply not to believe it. I'm not saying that he's necessarily laying the groundwork for reaching the conclusion that perhaps he needs to tinker with America's constitutional arrangements, but were he ever to get to that point, certainly he's taking actions that he would need to take in order to lay that groundwork. It's very difficult from where we are now to see how he beds down and governs in a way that doesn't leave him continually getting frustrated by the very system of checks and balances that exists here to try and prevent anyone from becoming an authoritarian leader.